Nice morning.
Beautiful, beautiful day. Yeah, absolutely.
Does that mean the policy address is really that good yesterday?
Yeah, you know, reactions are coming down the pike for the policy address. Some people are happy and some people aren't, of course.
Okay, after a night,
yeah,
you sleep on it.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
Thursday morning.
Yeah. With
keyword for the policy address 2014.
Let's see. I'm ready for a key address. All right.
You picked Metropolis yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday was Metropolis, definitely.
And you think it's exaggerating?
Yeah. You know, we all got to go.
Eastland Town Metropolis.
Yeah,
it's a bit exaggerating.
Absolutely.
But you know, Superman live in Metropolis.
Yeah.
And you think the chief executive may think
maybe
he has a cape?
Yeah, maybe.
To fly to.
Maybe. Well, you know, if he was trying to be a Superman, it was definitely on the poverty front.
All right.
He was definitely trying to do the work on poverty. There was a lot of stuff in there about poverty, which everybody knew was coming.
Well, but we have a Superman in our metropolis.
Yeah.
It's called Li Ka-shing. People said he's Superman.
We already got one. We already got one. Yeah. So,
all right.
There was a little bit of development talk in there for Li Ka-shing, but again, a lot more about poverty.
Yep.
When the poverty talk started, that was also when long hair chose his moment to get up and start railing against it. And of course, you know, he was summarily ejected.
All right.
What was interesting for viewers in English was that the translation provided translation of the chief executive. It provided translation of Jasper Zhang's instructions saying, Mr. Leung, would you please quiet down? Would you please, guards, could you please help him leave the chamber? I love that phrasing. But they didn't translate what Longhair was saying, but the sign language person was translating everything Longhair was saying. So if you read sign language, you got the Longhair.
Wow.
So what was on the cards for poverty? What was interesting now?
Poverty will be the keyword. I mean, definitely. Poverty will be the keyword.
Alleviation, if you want to get a phrase to go with it.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that were interesting. There was a lot of new measures introduced. I think what was interesting about what they did was that they were trying to learn from the mistakes that were made in the West with the building of the welfare states in the West, right? And in the West, a lot of it was just handing out money willy-nilly, and things got completely out of hand. And one of the things that they learned in the West was that if you give people too much welfare, it's a huge disincentive to work. Programs got such that people would say, "Oh, if I take a job, my monthly income will be lower," right? And when people finally figured out the governments were paying people not to work, and that if they actually got a job, they'd be worse off. Then it's been a very long, painful process to then reform those systems, because once the systems are in place, it becomes very difficult to change. So what the direction is that the first thing that I noticed was that there was a real stress on saying we're trying to help working families. If people are making money, then we're not going to penalize them. If they're, by giving them some welfare, we're not going to make them look at the program and go, hey, I'd be better off if I just quit. Right? Which people would do in the West.
Well, you know what? I think that's the key point of this policy address.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been focusing too much on policy alleviation.
Poverty alleviation?
Yes.
Yeah.
But in Chinese, it's not actually poverty alleviation.
Right.
It's called, if the direct translation is actually helping the poor to stand on their feet.
Okay, yeah, which sounds.
It's called it's kind of like helping poverty.
Yeah.
扶貧 is actually is actually poverty.
Yeah.
So I think the gist of it is that he doesn't want to just give them money.
Yeah.
And I think what you have just said is that it's kind of like escape from poverty.
Yeah.
Not poverty alleviate. I mean, alleviate is you make it more comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
Supposedly. Exactly. So
pain alleviation. It's kind of like, oh, I'm so painful. Okay.
Doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
It makes the pain.
So the poverty alleviation may not be a good translation if we talk about translation. It's kind of like, how can you escape from poverty?
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody would argue with that. But now the argument will be about whether or not the measures are effective.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see that. One of the things that does make a big difference is that the second big shift, or the second big thing that I noticed was that in the past, Donald Tsang and his administration were really big on one-off measures.
Yep.
Whereas these are structural, right? He did have a little nod to saying, "Oh yeah, we better watch the budget later on," but really he was about implementing long-term structural spending. That is big money going out the door.
How to measure is a good question.
Yeah.
But I would like to add on top of that is when to measure it.
Right.
If you measure it in 2017, you won't hold CY accountable.
Yeah.
You have to do it in 2016, then at least.
Yeah. But 2 years. Supposedly he'll run if we do have genuine universal suffrage, and depending on the candidates are, who knows? He could be back for another kick at the can, and he might have to live with those policies.
All right, we'll see.
Second term, but we'll see. So those are the two big things. Number one was this idea that they don't want welfare to make it so you're better off on welfare than working. Learn the mistakes of the West. And number two, they've introduced structural spending.
Yep.
This isn't a one-off, and I mean this could have potential to be a real problem because they say, this many people.
The recurrent expenses problem.
Recurrent expenses, but once you put it in place, you say, today this many people qualify. But if you put more money in there, more people will game the system so that they qualify. So then it throws off all their estimates.
But I would term it as the poverty gamble.
Yeah.
I would term it as the poverty gamble. Poverty gamble, because if he thinks that Hong Kong people can eventually move up the ladder and escape from poverty, then he doesn't mind to make those recurring expenses, because eventually people will escape from it. So it's a poverty gamble.
Theoretically.
It's a poverty gamble. If this experiment doesn't work, then the recurring expenses will become a structural problem.
It's a dangerous gamble. I mean, in economics, you say you pay more for something, you get more of it.
Yep.
You pay more to poverty?
Okay, we'll see.
So we'll have to wait and see on that.
Keyword for today, poverty.
Poverty. Oh, yeah.
All right.